Hello, and welcome to Preparation Avengers, a weekly podcast with up-to-date impressions on every film in the MCU leading up to Infinity War on April 27th. I'm your moderator, Thomas Rogers, and joining me this week is Danny DKP Kilpatrick.
Good evening, boys.
Paul Pepe Burns.
Hey there.
And Alexander Idify Hernandez.
I'm just a guy in a chair.
I mean, you probably are, right?
Literally.
I am also a guy in a chair.
I'm a nude man in a chair.
I'm Spider-Man. Guys, this week we're reviewing Spider-Man Homecoming.
We certainly
Yay.
are.
It's finally come home to the MCU. A couple of facts.
Yay.
Number one, it came out July 7th, 2017.
It's like just a while ago.
Yep, not too long ago at all. It had a budget of $175 million.
Even less than the previous couple of...
Yeah, to compare it, the comparisons I use for this are Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, Ant-Man. By the way, I have to proactively apologize. When we did our Ant-Man episode, I made fun of you guys because no other thing based on the creatures controls the animals.
But
there is a spider.
You even brought up.
There is a spider in this movie that Peter controls.
That's true.
It's a robotic spider, but it's still a spider. So that consider my apology delivered.
I accept your apology.
The Ant-Man's budget was $142 million, so this was just a wee bit more than that. It had a box office return of $880 million compared to Ant-Man's $519 million, which it makes sense. It's Spider-Man. You know?
Yeah, people
Spider-Man does
people
well.
like Spadoodle Man.
They're not tired of him yet. This movie was directed by John Watts. The only two things that I saw that John Watts has directed, he directed a bunch of episodes of the Onion News Network, and he also directed that movie that came out recently, Clown.
Which one?
The one where the guy puts he dresses
That's
up
Eli
like a clown.
Roth.
No, Eli Roth produced that.
Oh, he produced it. Oh shit!
Yes.
Really?
Yep,
Oh,
that's
actually-
the
I
only
actually
two
liked
things
that
that this
movie.
guy directed.
Wow, that's fucking bizarre.
One
That he
of,
would get...
I mean, I think he's done a couple of other smaller things, but those are the two most notable things. When Onion News Network is one of the two things that's most notable, it's pretty interesting.
Which
this
makes
movie-
sense, because Clown had a lot of John Hughes references.
John Waters. Yeah, remember when the clown ate shit off the concrete at the end? That was rad.
This movie was written by a bunch of people. It was written by Jonathan Goldstein, John Francis Daly, John Watts, Christopher Ford, Chris McKenna, Eric Summers, and then a couple of other people did some things, but I didn't really want to put them down because they basically wrote the story. So Jonathan Goldstein, he was the writer on Horrible Bosses 1 and 2, as well as the reboot of Vacation.
Wow, why did they let him anywhere near this fucking movie?
Yeah.
John Francis Daly also worked on it. He also did Horrible Bosses 1 and 2 and the Vacation reboot. Specifically, this John Francis Daly, the main character, the main actor in Freaks and Geeks. You guys watch Freaks and Geeks?
Yeah, it was the
Was
one
the kid with the curly hair?
It
I've
was
seen
a
it.
first show for a lot of people, like James Franco and
Yeah, Seth Rogen and all them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kid that's in it, he's the one of the people who wrote this, as well as Horrible Bosses 1, 2, and the Vacation reboot. John Watts, the only thing that he has a writing credit for is Clown. Christopher Ford, the only writing credit he has is Clown. Chris McKenna is writing Ant-Man and the Wasp. He also wrote Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. He wrote Lego Batman, the Lego Batman movie.
I heard that Jumanji movie was good.
Dude, I've heard the same thing.
Everybody's saying it's awesome.
He also wrote several episodes of Community, and he also wrote several episodes of American Dad.
I am a fan of Community.
And Eric Summers,
one of America.
One of the other writers on this,
I like dads.
basically just wrote the exact same stuff that Chris McKenna did, which is Jumanji, Lego Batman, Community, and American Dad. So yeah, this movie had a lot of writers. Last week we were talking about how interesting it was that James Gunn was the only writer for Guardians. This had 7 different writers.
Last week I was talking about how I thought that was such a good thing. And, yep.
Do you feel like it proves it by this with this movie?
I think it does to some degree. Whether you like the direction of the last one or not, it had a clear direction and tone.
That's fascinating to me. I feel like these two movies are reflections of each other. I feel like that the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 had an emphasis on all the things that put the emphasis on different aspects than this one did. This is sort of like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 seemed very predictable, and this movie just kept surprising me left and right. So I don't know. I could compare the two movies. I felt like that they were the two sides of the MCU universe. You get sort of the I don't know, predictable stories, and then you get stories that are not so predictable.
Well, we'll get to it, but I do just as a brief aside, I agree with you as far as some unpredictability. But every time I think of anything that's like that, it has to do with fucking Michael Keaton, which is which we'll get there.
National treasure, Michael Keaton.
Yes,
It's true.
Let's talk about the cast real quick. And by real quick, I mean it's probably going to take a while because the cast is a very long list of people. Start with Tom Holland as Peter Parker. Where are you guys at with Tom Holland as Peter Parker?
I think he does a fine job. He's all right.
So here's my
I
deal.
dig him.
I think that he is an excellent Spider-Man. I think that he is a less good Peter Parker. But I'm a Tobey Maguire guy, so.
Okay.
Such a weird looking fucking guy, and I never noticed it
No, he
until
is.
I got older.
He is.
Robin Williams. Number 2, Michael Keaton plays Adrian. It's Toomes. Is that Toomes?
Tombs. Like a bunch
Like
of
Tomb
old
Raider.
books.
Okay.
Hand me those tombs.
Toomes.
Those are tomes.
Yeah, but you can.
We can move on.
Number 3, Robert Downey Jr.
Oh wait.
Or do we want?
First, I just want to say he's amazing.
No, he was great casting.
Yes.
Great casting. I think that a lot of actors would not have done nearly as well with this material as Michael Keaton did.
I said this earlier, but I feel like I want to go back to it. Michael Keaton in this movie was amazing to me because he was not Bruce Wayne. He was not Batman. He was not Mr. Mom. He was not any of the people we've seen Michael Keaton playing in the past. He was absolutely 100% Toomes, or however pronounce his name, and the Vulture. He was 100% that guy, and he was amazing at it. It was believable. He's just an incredible actor.
We'll dive more into that character later, but I do want to say, like, with how good Michael Keaton is, I feel disappointed they wasted his role on the Vulture. He could have played
Tim Roth in Incredible Hulk. It's like, man, poor Tim Roth. I want him in other stuff.
I disagree completely because I think the Vulture was one of the most boring ass villains from the comic book. He's in like every other. He's in a lot of Spider-Man comics,
He
right?
definitely had a better
He shows
direction.
up all the time, but suddenly he was he Captain America Vulture for me. I came out of this going, oh, Vulture's one of my favorite bad guys now, entirely because
But imagine,
Michael
if
Keaton.
you will, for a moment, that he wasn't Vulture and he was a more prominent villain in the MCU.
Doc Ock or something like that.
I don't know. I really liked him as the Vulture. I thought that it was just the right part for him.
I just think Michael Keaton could have killed it with any role with the same tone, like the menacing atmosphere they get, or
Undoubtedly.
So it's just disappointing that they wasted him. It's still good, like what they did with him, but they could have done something larger with him.
I see Vulture as being
played the part
vital to
Who
Spider-Man.
else is
He
in the
goes.
movie?
Oh, sorry.
Marissa Tomei plays Aunt May Parker.
Got a lot to talk about with her.
You want to go ahead and touch on it? Because really, there's not a lot to talk about with her in terms of the movie, so we might as well talk about her.
So first off, let's just get it out of the way. The guy that directed this didn't give a shit about consistency from Civil War, which is the only other time we see Spider-Man. Which I've got a couple problems with that.
Don't get into all that yet.
No, I was gonna say one of them being the one with Aunt May, which is okay. So when you see her in Civil War, she's very fucking dolled up.
Hmm?
But looks like she's casually dressed too, I guess. But like she looks really, really fucking fine. It's Marissa Tomei, of course she's going to, and everyone everyone's remarking on it. In this one, it's like they for some reason decided to ugly Betty her or to attempt to, But they forgot that the writing doesn't support that.
It's like a She's All That type thing, but it's the reverse of it, where she like comes down the stairs and she looks really hot. But then as the movie plays out, they make her hair long, they straighten it all out. They make her wear like kind of frumpier looking clothes. Like if you, for anybody who has the ability to Google something real quick, Google an image of Aunt May from Spider-Man Homecoming and then Google an image of her from Civil War. And there is a stark contrast in the way that her character dresses,
but with the writing,
but I just
they
felt
don't
like,
address it because everyone's still like, she's getting free dinner at restaurants.
I felt like that was a taser face. It was a joke that worked in the previous movie that they were trying to carry on that didn't match sort of the tone of this movie, and it just didn't work for me.
I thought she was still hot.
Oh no, she's still a 10 out of 10.
Hot.
When we talk about Marissa Tomei, she, no matter what movie she's in, it's like Idify talking about reviewing movies.
It's a 10.
Yeah, she's like, she's
amazing.
Regardless if she's a Guardians of the Galaxy 10 or she's an Avengers 10, one of those 10s is better.
So was she the one in My Cousin Vinny?
Yes,
Yeah, that's what I thought. So yeah, she's an
10 out of 10 in that
Vito.
Yeah. Oh, she's just an amazing actress. But I like the love. I think that the waiter loves you, or whatever that Thai food was called.
Yeah, they got like free egg rolls or something.
It just
like
fell
that.
flat. For me.
He wants to faux Q. Get it?
See,
No,
that would have been much more funny.
John, let me write these movies.
John Favreau plays Happy Hogan, returns as Happy.
Oh, so happy to see him again.
Hey,
No
I
pun
get
intended.
it.
Gwyneth Paltrow returns as Pepper Potts.
For just one little bit.
Man.
She's only in it for like maybe 30 seconds, but she looks real good in that 30 seconds. Zendaya plays Michelle.
Welcome to the Four Men Gush Over Women in the MCU podcast, everybody.
Now we're talking about Michelle, also known as MJ.
Oh.
So
Zendaya.
I really liked the relationship. I actually really like her character. I think that it's sort of subtle. I want in the next, like, I like how intelligent she is and like how quirky she is. Like I knew people like that in high school, and she's very much becoming that person. Like, I'm going to detention just to draw people in crisis, and here's a picture of you, Mr. Teacher. It's sort of like,
I feel the complete opposite about this character.
as well.
Really?
All of her lines are social commentary. Like, all of them.
Like, including the ones about, like, the Washington Monument.
Yeah.
And But she's in like, high school. Surely you remember in high school that those annoying people who were exactly like that.
Yeah, but all the things that you said about her were not annoying. All the things that you just said about her were like how charming she was and things like that. But she's not those things. She's annoying.
Yeah, she's very angsty and I would describe it as a unsubtle way. But, and it annoyed me. It felt like very workshop. Like, oh, this is going to resonate with kids. They're going to like this.
Yeah,
so
this is.
Put her in
it's
there.
one of the. To me, she is the character that when I watch this movie in 20 years, I'm going to go, oh yeah, I remember 2017. It's going to make me think about 2017 or 2018 or whatever. A lot of the like I said, the social commentary stuff that's going on in our world, that like we're all divided right now and everything's really weird. Her lines and her character makes me think about this time period that we're in. It makes me think about things that I don't want to think about.
So there are other parts of this movie
in terms of enjoying a movie. I don't have a problem thinking about those stuff.
There were other parts of this movie that did that for me, and I can talk about that later. Mostly Tony Stark, but God, he annoyed me in this movie. But Zendaya MJ was not one of them. In fact, I would say that she was more close. She was the only person in the cast of characters other than Ned that I actually hung out with in high school. So she seemed more real to me than any of the other people.
Adify, what do you think about Zendaya?
I'm sorry. I must have broke up. You asking me?
Yep.
I liked her. I knew people like that in high school. No, I'm not playing Far Cry. You're breaking up from time to time. I actually liked her. I knew people like her in high school, so it didn't really bother me too much. It felt very real to the circumstance that they were in.
Cool.
Okay, fair enough.
Donald Glover plays Aaron Davis.
I loved that character.
I love Donald Glover as an actor. I didn't know about him so much until after seeing this movie. Because I watched Atlanta, and that was like the first time I ever fully watched a lot of him. Which, by the way, everyone should watch that. It's fucking phenomenal. But
yeah, Atlanta's hilarious.
I was a huge Community fan, so like I am so in the what's the phrase for I'm in the boat with Donald Glover. Like I'm in the bag. He's got me set. Fair enough. I thought he did brilliant in this. That scene with him talking to Spider-Man, and he goes, "Okay, man, get real here. You have got to get better at this part of the job."
See, that's just his cadence, the way he speaks. I wasn't familiar with it.
Yeah.
So I thought he was a terrible fucking actor the first time I saw this.
Oh no, that's just kind of the way he is.
Yeah, I got that.
You
the
should
second
watch him in Community.
Through,
He is so funny in Community.
Yeah, his timing. I'm already in the bag for him. So, but
fair enough.
Also, really, really great hip hop artist. His music is incredibly good. Like I'd say one of the I'd say one of the best of the decade for sure. Jacob Batalon plays Ned. His friend Ned.
Loved Ned. Ned is the
Ned.
perfect.
Ned was a good character.
He's like Sam Ganji. He's like he is so much that guy, and he is so self-aware. Like when he was talking about, you were making, I don't know how you made the joke, I'm the guy in the chair. Like he knew exactly.
He knew his place.
He knew, and he was all into it. And,
I really like the joke when he's at the homecoming and the teacher walks in and she's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, looking at porn. He's a really great character. He like bounces off of him really well, off of Tom Holland. To me, a lot of the heart of this movie comes from Ned,
and his acting is good.
Yeah.
Like when he dropped, like how would you tell a guy drop the Lego Death Star in just this way so that it tells this whole story? You knew exactly what was going through his
it's one
mind.
of those things. It's like hopefully he got it right the first time. Or I feel real bad for whoever the person is that has to build
the tech
guy. What are you
half
talking about?
Of a Lego Death
My
Star
job was
over
to
and over
build
and over.
Legos. I got to build a couple of them. That wouldn't be that bad.
But
yeah, but if he did 50 takes, you'd be pretty tired of putting that fucker back
at least
together.
it wasn't complete.
did they have a guy who built 5 of them to make sure that if the drop wasn't right?
Guarantee you, they had a ton of those on set.
It's interesting. Movie magic, man.
Maybe it was
hopefully
CGI.
He got it right
Who knows, man?
Maybe it was CGI.
It might be cheaper than buying a bunch of Lego Death Stars.
I've heard Legos. That sound was too perfect. Laura Harrier plays Liz, his love interest.
Which I thought she did a fine job. She was exactly that chick.
Yeah.
She was a little, so this is more in the writing, she was a little too much into Peter, right? That was sort of unbelievable to me. That's not how like high school relationships work. That it does not go as well as it went for Peter in all of those situations. So that part was a little unbelievable to me, but it got me to the end of the movie, so I was okay with it.
I don't know, like Peter's not a bad looking kid, and he's super, super smart. Like I could totally see her being into him.
I could too, but it went over so easily. Like when he decided he was going to ask her out.
If there's one thing that I know
out.
about being in high school and being hit on, it's that women are more subtle than that.
Yeah.
Had I known it was that obvious, well,
for more on subtlety, check out last week's episode.
Yeah, we talked a lot about subtlety.
Next up is Tony Revolori, who plays Flash Thompson.
I got mixed feelings about that.
I'm not a huge fan of this Flash Thompson.
This Flash Thompson sucks ass, man. The Flash Thompson from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was like what Flash Thompson should be.
He's a jock. He's sort of stupid. He's kind of mindless.
Everyone likes him better than Peter.
Everybody likes him better than Peter.
I didn't understand. I didn't buy into him being a dick to Peter. I just didn't buy into it.
I thought of it more as it's just like a subtle ribbing between one another.
They seem more like friends to me than like mortal enemies.
I don't think so, because when you're not when you're not at a party, but one of the people is at a party and you're the DJ and you're having everyone at the party say, when I say Peter, you say penis, but Peter's not actually there.
It's Penis Parker. Yeah.
Penis Parker, whatever. it's
You're basically
mean-spirited.
shit talking someone behind their back.
Well, I feel like
and making it like as blatant and pushing it out there into, if he's just giving him shit, like DKP and I have this give each other shit thing.
Yeah.
But there's not a scenario where I would go to a party and get on a microphone and give DKP a bunch of shit with him not actually at that party.
And it's also, I feel like the movie didn't know that either, because it's like, okay, what do you, the bad characters or the bully characters always get their comeuppance, right?
right.
So
He did. Did you see what happened to his dad's car?
yes, there's that, and also all the teachers are treating him like shit.
It's true.
In the normal Spider-Man bit, it's Flash Thompson is liked even by the teachers. All the girls like him.
Yeah, when that teacher calls him out, like, I was like, ugh. Like, you and I watched Spider-Man Homecoming together, DKP, and she asks a question, and then Flash answers it incorrectly, has Peter answer it, Peter answers it correctly, and then the teacher, like, says something very mean-spirited to Flash about, like, this is why you don't answer questions out loud like this, Flash, where, like, it was just really mean. It was really mean hearing a teacher talk to someone like that.
Now, all that being said, I did laugh a lot when they were singing Penis Parker. And I do like the fact that
no, he's funny. He's very funny.
And I like the actor who played him. I thought he did a pretty good job of it. And I like the fact that they are trying to include social bullying, which is sort of a newer idea in our
Social bullying? What do you mean?
Yeah, like bullying over the internet, bullying. The sorts of bullying that Flash did in this was less, we're going to give you a wedgie and shove you into a locker, and more like bullying that we'd see in psychological bullying. So I like that aspect. I just wish that, I think that there's an unfairness to being in high school where everybody else seems to be getting something that you're not, and that's an interesting story that they just didn't talk about.
You know, I gotta say, if Major Tom was bragging that he knew a fucking superhero and he didn't produce, yeah, I would say there's ribbon gonna happen for sure.
That was painful for me to watch.
He was fucking around. He was ripping on him even before then, though. Like, it clearly tells that we've talked way too much about Flash Thompson, but
we're getting him out of the way. We don't have to talk about it.
The movie just doesn't. The movie it isn't totally correct with how a bully is normally treated,
which is actually,
so it makes him more of a sympathetic character right from the beginning.
Which is one of my problems with this whole movie, is that it's not really a Spider-Man movie. It's a different kind of a story.
I think we'll probably touch on that a little bit whenever we get to it. So next up is Boheme Woodbine, plays Herman Schultz, aka Shocker number 2, aka who was he in Fargo season 2?
Mike Milligan.
And I want to say he was in, well, I'm not sure, so I'll hold off, because I know there was one other guy who was definitely in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, we'll talk about him. This is not him, no. This is the black dude.
Yeah, but he was in something else. I know this dude.
He is brilliant in Fargo season 2.
Nice. Like
10 out of 10. One of the best characters on television.
I actually thought he was not bad as a generic Spider-Man villain.
Yeah, he was.
He's a fine actor, and he's got like one of those. Just the cadence in which he speaks is interesting, keeps you engaged. But no, Fargo season 2, Mike Milligan, top tier.
Oh, cool.
That's Boheme Woodbine. Next up is Tyne Daly. She has a very brief scene in this. She plays Anne Marie Hogue. She is the lady who rolls up on the Vulture. What's his name? I have it in front of me. Adrian Toomes.
Mike Milligan.
She rolls up on him and is like, "Hey, you can't have all this stuff, all this Avengers stuff."
Oh yeah, right in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
She looked right out like a Harry Potter She has a full name. She has a full credit in this, and it's because I don't know if I have it in the
Secrets of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, Secrets thing. But she's a part of the like cleanup crew, and they're damage control. Yeah, they're heavily featured in the comics, but there's a TV show is in the works about them that takes place in the MCU, and it's going to be all the people that go around and clean up the mess from all the Avengers problems that happen.
Which that comic was really good, and I am sort of horrified because it was kind of Deadpoolish.
The show is described as a comedy.
I hope so.
That's how it's described.
That's a hard sell. That was a funny ass comic, but it was mostly funny because it made fun of superheroes.
Yeah, that's supposedly what the intention, the plan is for the show. So yeah, the reason that she has a full credit is because the intention is to bring that actor into the television series. Abraham Atta plays Abe. He's the African kid that you see several times. The reason he's in one of the why can't I think of the word? When they go to the
he's in the decathlon or whatever.
Yeah, he's one of the kids involved in that. He has a couple of lines in the movie, but the reason his character is important is because he becomes something in the Spider-Man universe.
Oh.
A lot of Peter's friends are actually that, which is kind of interesting. Hannibal Buress plays Coach Wilson.
Man, Hannibal Buress, the Cosby Slayer himself.
I thought he was so he has an amazing bizarre stand-up routine.
Just deadpan the sort of
that's how his character is in this too. It's great.
If you get a chance, I recommend seeing his
Hannibal Buress is great.
But I loved his interactions. He had a weird play. He played off of video Captain America brilliantly.
Yeah. I love when Captain America points to the coach.
And he's on the wrong side.
He's on the wrong side. It's just a little funny thing. Next up is Kenneth Cho, plays Principal Morita. And we'll talk about him more in the Secrets of the Marvel Universe as well. Salinas Levia plays Miss Warren. She's the teacher who walks in and is like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Looking at porn." She's that teacher. Martin Starr plays Mr. Harrington. We talked about Martin Starr because this is his second MCU film. His first was The Incredible Hulk, and he was a guy who was in a laboratory who had like a pizza box. And he wasn't credited as a character that had a name in that, but the internet believes that they are the same character because he's a nerdy guy who's in a college and he's eating pizza, and now he's a teacher.
Oh,
I love his line whenever he's on the TV thing and they're talking about, he's like, I can't lose a student on a field trip.
Not again.
Not again.
He brought an odd gravitas to that role. Like he was really seriously into that role every time it was like.
That's the guy from Silicon Valley, right?
Correct.
Right. I think so.
Okay.
He plays Guilfoyle, yep.
Yes.
Next up is Garcelle Bouvet, plays Doris Toombs. That's Adrian Toombs' wife.
I thought her role was incredibly understated. You see, I'm just kidding. We can move on. She had 6 minutes screen. Well, no, like 6.
I don't know why
it's almost
them a
like
shout out.
I was about to say, it's almost like, why am I reading all of these people? Because IMDb put them higher than some of these other people that I'm about to name off. Michael Chernus.
It gets even lower?
Yep. Michael Chernus plays Phineas Mason. Phineas Mason, he's the guy who Adrian Toombs has him. He's the guy who's building everything.
Oh, yeah,
in the comics, he's known as the Tinkerer.
He's going to turn into the Tinkerer, yeah.
Yep. Michael Mando plays Mac Gargan. Michael Mando is the one that you were referring to that's in Better Call Saul.
Ah, yes.
And specifically...
Oh my god, he's going to be the Scorpion.
Yes, he has the Scorpion tattoo on his neck.
And he's missing an arm.
Yes.
So he's already a monster.
Famously, for the nerds of the world out there, his first real big role, he played Voss in Far Cry 3.
Oh,
when the Far Cry series, when it stopped being something that some people played to where the video game world at large was paying attention to it, it was because of his portrayal as Voss. You always hear that what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same
person
thing.
Who
blah, blah,
fucking
blah.
officially made people.
He ruined that thing. Yes.
Yeah, believe that the definition of insanity is wrong.
Yeah.
He was brilliant in Breaking Bad as well.
Oh, he's
it was
great.
Just a stunningly good actor.
Logan Marshall Green plays Jackson Price, also known as the Shocker #1. This is an actor that I always, when I see him in
Tom
movies,
Hardy?
I confuse him for Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Always. They look so similar. He was in that movie, The Invitation, that I put it as a nomination back when we did the Netflix movie club, where he goes to some party and a bunch of weird shit happens.
The main character in that?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's a great film, by the way. Great horror film.
He was in Across the Universe.
Check it out.
He was on 24, a TV show called Damnation. He was also in The OC, which
in
one of my
this
favorite
series,
shows.
He was kind of a throwaway character.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
I mean, they
he'd
literally
punch
killed
some
him in
things
3
and then
seconds.
they kill him. Yeah.
Yep. Chris Evans is... Anybody want to guess who Chris Evans plays in this movie?
Patience.
He does play Patience.
Chris Evans is a brilliant rendition of Captain America.
Yep.
And I think that guy's a war criminal or something.
Now, this next thing, I feel like I got this wrong when I talked about it on a previous podcast, but I'm not 100% sure. Next is Karen. Karen is the voice.
It's Karen.
Yeah, it's Karen.
It's Karen. She is played by Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, she is Jennifer Connelly.
Man.
She is married to Paul Bettany, who is the Vision.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's kind of ironic that the two voices of Tony Stark's technology.
Yeah.
You boys ever see that movie Requiem for a Dream?
I have.
Remember her huge bush in that film?
Nope.
Yes, I do.
Man.
But that is
Shout out
not
to Peb's mom.
One-
But
That's
that is
something,
not
you know?
why I remember her. I remember her from the movie where they're locked in the Target overnight. and
Not
then-
Labyrinth.
No, well, I remember from Labyrinth
You don't remember
too.
her from the ass to ass scene?
No, I'm telling you, the best scene is her riding a fucking one of those drop a quarter in the little horsey ride things. She rides one of those in the most sexy way ever. If you have not seen that scene in the movie, you should
What movie
look
is
up.
it?
I forget the name of the movie. It's
Oh.
the movie where she rides
Well,
a
if I
fucking
haven't
horse.
seen that scene, I guess I'll
Labyrinth,
just-
where she was 15.
No, if you just look up Jennifer Connelly rides
Jennifer
a...
Connelly, another 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Especially if you like him hairy, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
I know.
Again, shout out
that
to
was the
Pepsi.
nod to you.
I absolutely do.
And
A
that's
lot of
it.
subtlety on this week's everything.
Sorry.
Less obvious.
No.
Not subtle,
Great.
less obvious. And that's it. DKP, what is Spider-Man Homecoming about?
Well, you see, Major Tom, this is what people refer to as a coming-of-age story. Okay, Spider-Man Homecoming is about Spider-Man, and he's already Spider-Man, which I'm fine with.
Me too.
I don't know, it recaps incorrectly the events of Captain America Civil War, which I'll talk a little bit more in depth about later. Then he's like, "Oh man, I want to be Avenger now," and Happy Hogan's like, "Kid, you're dumb and stupid." So then he's like, "No," and so he does some shit for some churros. Nothing's really working out. But meanwhile, there's this guy who feels disenfranchised and put down by the man. And he's like, I need to fucking be a weapons dealer now. So he becomes a weapons dealer. And that's not good enough, though. At the same time, he needs to be able to fly and wear a suit. I'm not sure why, how it really reached that conclusion, but he does. So, but that happens to be, in the secret of that is it's Michael Keaton. Pretty fucking cool, huh? So that guy does some shit for like, 8 fucking years? Something goofy like that. Fucks up the timeline, which is wonderful. Spider-Man doesn't like it, finds out about it. Spends most of the movie trying not to fuck anybody, desperately hard. When there's people throwing themselves at it. Ned wants to fuck him super bad. It almost happens, and Aunt May fucking ruins it. Walks in there. So it's a movie about Peter Parker trying to find love, but also running away from it. It's like his greatest fear, I think. And that's where the whole coming of age story kind of comes in a little bit. It's where I think it hits its stride. Apart from that, I don't know, man. Fucking he fights the vulture? Falcon?
The Vulture.
The vulture. Turns out
The
it's this
bald
chick's
eagle.
mom. it's her mom, yeah. She's the vulture. And then I don't know.
That would've been a surprising
she
twist.
fucks off and moves away. And then Peter's like, "Oh, I am Penis Parker."
The
And
end.
that's it.
Who wants to open it up with our review discussion?
I love this movie.
Tell me all about it. Tell me why.
I thought that this movie was a whole lot of fun. It was everything that I wanted out of a movie experience. It was 100% shocking to me. Like, literally, I have not had the experience of sitting in a theater with my jaw dropped the way that I did when, major spoilers here, Michael Keaton opens that door. That was just brilliant. I was blown away. I had been watching 2 separate stories.
It's specifically when Peter
Goes
asks
to pick up his
Liz to
homecoming
homecoming.
date.
Yeah.
And it turns out the bad guy is his homecoming date's dad.
And that is
Dun,
brilliant.
dun, dun.
movie making, where they gave me two stories that I thought were two separate stories that I was completely good for. I believed in both of those stories. They didn't have to cross, and then boom, they're the same story. I love this movie because I could relate to the bad guy. This was Killmonger Jr. This was the first of the first real villain in the Marvel universe that I've run into. Here's a guy that I can relate to. He's a guy just trying to do a job, and he's committed, he's invested in it, and somebody comes in and says, fuck you, we're rich, and we're just going to roll right over you, and you're all on the street, you're out of here. And he says, well, I'm going to use the resources I have, and I'm going to do the best that I can. He doesn't intentionally. He is willing to kill when he is really defined by the fact when he's having his little conversation with Peter Parker, and he says,
that scene is incredible.
Oh my god, it's brilliant.
The whole lead up to it too, when they're in the car and he's driving, and you can see him start to piece together that he's Spider-Man.
And I hadn't noticed it until this time, but if you notice the light on his face, he turns around and he looks at Peter Parker.
He's at a red light.
He's at a red light.
And the light is red, like his face is glowing red.
And the moment that he figures out that the moment he is sure that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, the light turns green. And it just goes green on his face. And you just can and that is a brilliant actor. Because you can see Michael Keaton as the Vulture realizing at that moment. And here's the deal. He was really clear to Peter Parker. He said, okay, you saved my daughter's life, and I can't... I
really appreciate that. I want you to show her a good time,
etc. But if you stand between...
Not too good a time.
If you stand between me and my family's success, I will kill you. Flat out.
And he's like, not just you, I will kill everyone you've ever loved.
Everyone you've ever loved. And so he is not malicious. He doesn't go out and try and kill people. He's not sadistic in any way. But you step between what he believes is going to support his family, and he will cut your fucking fairy in half. He has got no problems with that.
I don't know, I thought the character was really fucking cliche and obvious, and it was just a ripoff of Breaking Bad. I'm kidding, but I mean, you were basically just describing Walter White to me. Though
yes!
I was like, yeah, okay.
Yes, he was a Walter White character, and you don't like. I can't defend him, but even in those final scenes, his relationship to Peter Parker makes sense. Like when Peter Parker saves his life, and he's like, "Dude, you're about to blow up. I'm saving your fucking life." Like you can tell that Michael Keaton, or the Vulture, understands their relationship. And even though he respects him, they're clearly always going to be enemies, but he's not going to roll over on Peter Parker at the same time, because that's just not the way he is.
I don't want to talk about the post-credit scene too much, but the post-credit scene, he absolutely has an opportunity to
roll on him.
Yep. To completely destroy Peter Parker, and he chooses not to.
And so, for me...
Saving him for himself.
To some extent, I would maybe. So to me, that's what this movie does amazingly well. It gave me a good bad guy. It gave me and I love Ned, and I love the fun. Excuse me, the fun they have. It was just a really fun movie for me.
You know, I gotta say, one of my favorite things of this movie is you really got the sense of what it was like for him, what it's like to him be a teenager in high school and have to deal with being a superhero. That was probably my favorite thing of this whole movie. Him juggling, wanting to be an Avenger, a love interest, doing his grades, loved it. Very John Hughes.
And like, that's an experience that teenagers go through in general, right? This general identity crisis, and the fact that they used Spider-Man as a way to bring attention to that, I thought worked really well.
You don't think that it's convenient that it's an allegory? I mean, Peter has this secret that no one can know, and he just wants to be his true self, but he can't. You don't think that's no? Tom, okay.
I'm not sure.
That was rolling my eyes. I wanted to make sure
it was just a jab at Tommy.
I wanted to make sure the audio listeners heard me roll my eyes. So,
it can be an allegory if you try hard enough.
Well, yeah, I think that
you don't have to try that hard.
If you want to make an allegory, I think the X-Men make a much better allegory. This was just a kid in high school. Now, that being said,
well, I thought we were talking about social commentaries. That's why I brought that up.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Move forward.
It's too subtle.
It is. It's a little too subtle for me.
Okay, I'm just fucking about. Come on, let's move it on.
So I really enjoyed it. It was a good movie. It was good fun. There's some parts of it that that annoyed me, but for the most part, it was a great movie.
Adify, what do you think?
Yeah, Adify, what are your overall thoughts? Or anything you
so,
want to call out?
No, I just find it real interesting that we get a John Hughes movie and we have two people who were in his movies, Robert Downey and Michael Keaton. They're a story told very well, a very captivating villain, almost on the lines like what Peb said about Killmonger. Not quite Killmonger, but motivation makes a ton of sense. Businessman struggling, just getting stomped by government, has to do his own thing. Yeah, real enjoyable.
One of the things that I don't know if I like this about this movie or I don't like this about this movie is that it feels like one of the Marvel TV shows. So they get basically one of the big draws for it is that they give you additional like behind the scenes or extra footage of things that were created or exist based on the movies. So, we talk about the opening where they're going around and they're cleaning up the mess from the Avengers. So it's like, oh, here's the events of the Avengers, but from a different perspective. And it kind of continues that on where it's like, here's the events of Civil War, but from a different perspective. It feels like a TV show companion that exists alongside these big, huge movies that exist. But again, I don't know if I like that about this movie or I don't like that about this movie, because it like the whole thing is it's about him getting really good at being they say it multiple times, a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Yeah. It's about being a guy in a neighborhood who's saving cats and saving bikes and eating churros and just like having a nice casual, just be a good fella that's doing small tasks, getting cats out of trees and helping old ladies across the street kind of thing. And we don't have some big, huge Spider-Man story. But we have had big, huge Spider-Man stories before, so it may work to this movie's benefit that it's a lot smaller. But again, I don't know if that makes the movie better or worse for me, because it doesn't compare to a lot of the bigger things in terms of like how I feel about this movie. But I still really, really enjoy it. I really enjoy everything that's happening. We went over the cast. I think the cast is all really solid. The characters are good. Like, you get a lot of really interesting character moments. And I think all of that works, but it all feels smaller. It's much smaller stakes. It's much smaller across the board.
So that actually really worked for me. And I'm curious to know what DKP thinks about this. So specifically, the intro scene I found very satisfying. It connected us to all of those other stories. It reminded us of what happened in them, perhaps slightly inaccurately, and it got us up to speed, and it did a good job of universe making without actually having a lot of that happening in this universe. And it did it through characters that I cared about, all right? So I loved the happy Peter Parker relationship. That was one of the more interesting relationships in this story. And so him making that little video at the beginning was really satisfying to me. I didn't need to have a million years spent talking about the Avengers, but it was going to be super important to Peter Parker's life. And so we needed to at least tell us a little bit of that story, and I thought it did a good job of that. But I understand you had a different experience, DKP.
No, I agree with everything you said, minus one pinnacle moment in it. If there's anyone listening that also listened to the Civil War review, I specifically called out how the reveal of Spider-Man I thought was ruined in the trailer. Not because, like, oh, it spoiled it, but the way that it's actually done in the movie is way better than it's cut in the trailer. Kind of like when you see a trailer when you can see that someone asks a question and then clearly someone from a different scene answers it. Tommy, you talked about that last week. That shit is obvious, and it's really low-hanging fruit humor oftentimes. That's like the actual part in the movie's better than what they put in the trailer. and that aggravates the shit out of me. So this happened in this fucking. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say Joss Whedon used to do it around ads. So when you would get to where a commercial was gonna start, Joss Whedon would have them throw off a one-liner, and that was sort of a joke. And then when they would come back in the scene, they would just pretend like that line was never said, and it annoyed the shit out of me. Yeah. So did it do that to you in this experience?
So in the movie, Spider-Man in Civil War comes in, like Captain America, Iron Man's like underoos or whatever, right? He pops in, and he's like, "Hey, he
steals Cap's shield. He flies over and he lands on top of the car with the shield.
And he's like, "Was it too much? Sorry. By the way, thanks for the suit. Nothing personal." It starts like his whole bit being unsure of himself, and it's funny, right?
And he like looks at Cap and he throws him the salute, and he's like, "Hey, Cap." Or whatever.
In the trailer, they have him fucking swoop in and go, "Hey, everyone." And I hate the way that's said. It seems like a very Marvel-esque, way too fucking obvious-ass punchline that doesn't even exist in the movie.
It does not exist in Civil War, but exists in the trailers for Civil War.
I hated it then. I still hate it. Now, when you're watching the intro to this, it shows he puts the camera down, swoops in, breaks continuity.
He lands on the car
and goes,
says,
"Hey everyone!" In this movie,
and
that fucking
so he does it in the trailer
pissed me off so much,
and he does it in Homecoming, but he does something completely different in Civil War.
Yeah,
that's very annoying.
It's just, and it's like that what was actually there was better. Why the fuck they stuck to their guns on this? I don't know, but it annoyed me way more than it should have, as evidence to this 2 or 3 minute long diatribe that didn't even really matter. So
but it's a rotten time.
The rest of it I thought was fine.
It's a rotten time to break you out of your, like, it's just when the show's starting. You don't want to be reminded that this is just a TV or a movie when you're just starting out. I get that.
Yeah.
But I liked the idea of him being connected to all of these other stories.
Yeah, I liked all that too.
And I liked that the way that this honestly gave us a short primer, a reminder of here are all the things that happened previously on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so going into Infinity War, if you hadn't, say, watched every movie in order once a week and then given a podcast on it, you might not remember all of these details. And this was a good way to remind people.
What about Tony Stark? Like, I remember it was kind of a joke before the movie came out, but like if you watch the trailer, Tony Stark is in 50% of the trailer for Spider-Man Homecoming, and when you see the poster for Spider-Man Homecoming, he is larger on the screen than Peter is. He takes up more space than Peter does. It feels like the way it's played up before the movie came out is that it felt like it was going to be the Tony Stark movie with this kid. Like it was going to be like a sidekick kind of buddy movie. I don't think that the movie actually, I don't know if it overused him. It didn't use him as much as I thought it would. With that being said, I do partially feel like he's in it just a little bit too much.
So I have a strong feeling about this, so I think other people should answer on it.
I don't really care. I think that them showing it in the trailers, deceptive, yes. Whatever you can do to show me less of the movie's content so you don't ruin every punchline, I'd rather you do that. I don't want to see I'm looking at porn in the trailer, that sort of shit. So if you gotta smush all of Robert Downey Jr. scenes just to make time for a fucking TV cut, it's deceptive and shitty, but
yeah, the trailer we see like the scene where he opens the door for him and he's like, "I'm not giving you a hug, I'm just opening the door." And you see where he's having a conversation with him on that roof where he gets out of his suit and he's like, "If you can't do it without a suit, then you don't deserve the suit," or whatever. And then you see him like pushing the ferry together. Like you see a lot of scenes in the trailer that exist in the movie as well, which is fine that they're in there, but it made the movie, the trailer made it out that Tony Stark was in this movie a lot. And it seems like marketing because everybody fucking loves Iron Man and the Iron Man movies do. The only one singular character that's crossed $1 billion is Iron Man 3. And I think Black Panther's on its way to do that. But it makes sense that they would market this movie in a way that's like, this has got so much Iron Man in it. All you Iron Man fans are going to love it. I just didn't like the way it was marketed like that.
I thought it had just the right amount of Robert Downey. I did like the whole mentor aspect of everything. And one of the things that the movie did very well, at least in my opinion, was it still conveyed like one of the most powerful messages in almost every Spider-Man. You know, with great power comes great responsibility. And it did that very well with Robert Downey's character, kind of not blatantly saying it, but it being there.
I want to second that. I love the fact that they didn't say with great power comes great responsibility, but that was a major theme in this movie.
It was something he said in Civil War, because he asked him, like, why are you doing what you're doing? And he said, if you can do the things that I can and you let bad things happen, it's your fault that those things are happening.
So I will say there was one part of Iron Man that I thought was brilliant, and it was when he says to him, I wanted to be just like you, and he says, I wanted you to be better than me. I thought that was a really good moment in a mentor-student relationship.
If I can add to that, it also, which is a good change of pace for the Iron Man character. You've seen his progression from all these movies, from Civil War, and now you see him in that father figure kind of mentality. So it adds.
Oh no, we saw that in Iron Man 3.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but
I just
better
help
in this one.
But think, why is he being such a fucking cock?
All right, so
to Peter Parker constantly.
So here's
in this fucking movie when he's the one who came and asked for his help initially.
No, so here's the deal. Here's my major problem with this movie. I really enjoyed this movie except for this one piece, which is which A is not a Spider-Man story, and B is just generally offensive and bothersome. This movie is a love letter to rich people. This movie is a story about how when you're poor, you should learn how to do what the rich people tell you to do and quit being an uppity, upstart, poor person and trying to be. This is, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna just say it. This movie is why you shouldn't vote for Bernie Sanders. The bad guy is Bernie Sanders. He looks like him, and Peter Parker.
You're saying Michael Keaton looks like Bernie Sanders?
Absolutely. So
okay, I'll just let that one go.
I'll show you a picture. We'll see.
Okay.
So this idea that that you should be subservient to rich people just because they're rich is offensive, and and it's a perversion, this version of mentorship that's right out of the fucking Middle Ages. This is I'm sorry, I feel very strongly about this. This is a perversion of the American culture that's being represented here. And I think that what they're trying to tell a story about how our culture could be in the future, and that story to me is horrifying and awful.
Just real quick, I promise you,
sure.
I'm not following you.
I'm
not following the parallel. If you can go into it just a little bit more. I'm not saying I'm not interested in it. Very, very interested in it.
Let me give you a very specific example. Let's say that you design a computer game and you want to go out and you want to sell your computer game. How is it that you will go out and do that? Now, do you go out and do you start...
We can't even figure out a way to market this. I don't know. Good question.
Yeah. I'll be shocked if this gets more than 15 views.
Agreed. But if you go out and become a student of a rich company, then you can maybe get some of your ideas out, and the only person that'll get credit is that company that you are a part of. You're never gonna succeed. You're gonna be a friendly neighborhood computer programmer, and you're gonna do what other people tell you. This movie is training people to do what rich people tell them. This movie is saying you can't be
the analogy that you're
own.
making here, maybe not the analogy, but the thing that's leading to the analogy is that Peter is better because of his suit. A rich person provided him with that suit.
Yes, and that Peter shouldn't ever want to be Tony Stark. He should never want to touch him. He should never want to talk to him. Tony Stark is not a real person. He is only a person to be worshipped and obeyed. And that is vile to me.
You see, this reminds me of like a parable, right?
Hold on, DKP, real quick. Because with that being said, Pev, then didn't you like the end? Because that's completely saying, no, I don't need the rich guy.
I did find the end satisfying, but I don't think that was... I I think that the main thrust of this was that you should just try to be a small man, and that you should only do what you're allowed to do, and that was offensive to me, and it was the opposite of what Spider-Man is actually about. And I will give you that Spider-Man at the end says, "I want to be a simple man," but that's really what they were saying. It wasn't that Spider-Man here's the difference between what you're saying and what I'm saying. If at the end Spider-Man said, "I know what it is to be a hero, and I'm going to go and be the hero that I need to be. Thank you for this offer, Tony Stark. I don't want to be an Avenger because what I need to do is to be my version of Spider-Man." That's not what he said. What he said was, "You're right, man. All this fucking me being in control stuff and me being a superhero on my own, that was a huge mistake. I'm going to go and just be a small little man and be in my place and not cause any trouble for all the rich people."
And then he just kind of washes all that away by going, "This was a test, right?" And then he's like, "Yeah, it was a test and you passed." Where it was like, maybe he wasn't saying all of those things because he felt them, but instead he was saying them because he thought that's what Tony would want to hear.
Exactly. And I think that that's what this movie was about. It was about training people out of making decisions for themselves and instead making decisions based on who the rich person in authority tells them to do.
I don't agree with you, but that is such a fascinating and interesting take, and I love that take on it.
The movie, it kind of reminds me, like I said, like of a parable. And if you grew up in like a Muslim household, you might have heard this parable.
Dude, do you really have to try to do this joke?
No, but listen.
Let's not tell the ass thing again.
It is relevant because this is my interpretation of it. I'm not going to go into the parable bit.
Is this knowledge versus experience?
Yeah, look it up if you're interested in that. But anyways, no, look. So I think that if you want to pick something that you want to find offensive about it, I don't think there is anything. But you could even, I would say it'd be more accurate to call Tony Stark ageist for not trusting Peter because he's in high school.
Oh, no.
And that's why. Not that he's of lower stock or class. It's just that Peter's too eager. He doesn't seem like he's mature enough to, and even though he is, the movie tells us the movie shows us he is. Tony Stark isn't even going to give him the time for him to recognize that until he's a little bit older, out of high school at the very least, because he's a kid. That's what I saw it. It wasn't a matter of class. It was a matter of just Tony not being too arrogant to even like give him the time because he's only fucking, 15, 16? Right. That was the extent that I saw it at, but that's it.
I saw it the same way DKP did, because even in the end of that, you did come to the realization that Iron Man did need him to an extent.
Well, and
so
the truth
knowledge
is
versus experience.
And I will give a little credit to the movie in that Iron Man as a character was operating within the realm of his character very well, in that he had a hard time being Iron Man at the beginning. And it was all, fun and games, but the truth is he really did sort of struggle with how to become a superhero. And we see in this show that Iron Man is clearly trying to make some of those things easier for Peter Parker, right? He's catching Peter Parker when he falls. My point is that he doesn't then lift him up or enable him to succeed. He just sort of says, you can be an Avenger like me and follow these instructions. So
I have a question for you guys, and I think that I may have misread the whole scene, or like the way that all of this works. And if you guys can clarify it for me, then it will make the movie better. If you can't clarify it for me, it will make the movie worse. So hopefully, if you're a fan of Spider-Man and you want me to score this movie well, it's all dependent upon you guys. Okay, so the pressure is on. The scene where the whole ferry scene happens, and then Peter tries to go stop the weapons dealers or whatever, and they end up almost destroying that boat and all of those people on it. And then Tony Stark gets real mad at him, and they go on top of a building, and he says you can't have the suit, and you shouldn't have done this, and you're putting people in harm, and you're doing all these bad things. And then we cut to the end of the movie, and the end of the movie, they're trying to steal a plane full of stuff, and then Peter gets on that plane, So mirror the ferry with the plane.
It was an unpiloted plane, by the way.
It was unpiloted, but he sure crashed it into a giant carnival area full of people.
Coney
and
Island.
Now he's a hero.
And now he's a hero. And now Tony is like, I was wrong about you, kid. You saved the day. You did great. I'm proud of you. Here's your suit. What was different between those two? What did he do?
I can tell you
Tony,
exactly what's different.
Where Tony was like, okay, what you did was right this
I can
time,
tell you exactly
and was wrong
what
last
was
time.
different.
Please do.
And it's my problem with this entire movie.
Oh no, you're not going to help the score. You're going to make
hold
it
on.
worse.
Before you do that, let me explain the positive aspect that I got then.
No, but wait. Let me say what it is that's different. There's exactly one thing different in those two situations, and Tony Stark says it on the top of that roof. Sorry to cut you off there, Ida 5, but it's just real quick.
No, go ahead.
On the top of the roof, he says, "That's why I called the FBI." The only difference between the ferry and the plane is that in the ferry, the police were called and were supposed to be in charge. And on the plane, nobody knew about it except Spider-Man.
No,
So
that is not what I got from that at all.
The problem with him attacking the ferry is that he stood up to the state, that he got in the way of the FBI and they're in charge. And the problem and the reason he's a hero on the plane is the FBI wasn't there, so he had to pick up the realm. That's my interpretation.
I thought it had something to do with people being in danger. Or him
people were in danger in both
him
situations.
fighting above his weight class.
Hold on, Ida 5, what were you going to say?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, but
As
you're
far as the
missing a
positive
critical
about it.
scene. The element that is being missed was when Spider-Man first went at it with Vulture and then fell in the ocean and Iron Man picked him up. Stark told him, "Leave him alone. I'm gonna take care of this." So when Spider-Man went on his own on the ferry and then tried to stop everything again, that's why Stark was pissed. The other element of it is with the armor being shipped to the facility or whatever, Stark had no knowledge that was ever going to go down. Stark already knew. So he was telling him flat out, I'm handling it.
So
But
it's because he
Spider-Man's
stepped on his toes?
Yes. It's because Spider-Man did something against what Iron Man told him to do, and standing up to people of authority, the rich people, is the problem.
So because he
The
ran
only
the race
reach
that
that
Iron Man was trying to run the first time, Iron Man was mad at him.
Yes.
And he wasn't mad at him the second time because Iron Man wasn't in that race.
Yes. Because rich people should always win and be in charge.
No, because he's asking for his help. And
I just don't see the
Spider-Man
comparison
is
that you're drawing
going
to
through
rich people.
on.
I think it's just Tony's character. I'm not sure if this is an allegory to describe society.
Both you guys talking, I can't hear either of you.
Well, that's the thing. What's that? Spider-Man was clearly asking for his help, his involvement. But because he didn't flat out tell him he was going to do it, he took it on his own accord to do it, which he put a bunch of people in jeopardy.
So it's because he didn't listen to him.
Iron Man's method would have avoided all of that.
Yeah.
So Stark completely made sense. Completely made sense.
So, okay, I want to make sure I'm getting this right. So because Tony Stark was aware of the ferry, and he was like, I am going to handle this, and Peter decides to handle it. He's mad at him because he handled something that Tony said that he was going to handle.
But then almost a bunch of people got killed because of it, or otherwise it wouldn't have happened.
No, we're talking about two different motivations here. We're talking about the motivations of you put a bunch of people's lives at risk by jumping into this. So
that's the way that I read it.
I think that it was...
he absolutely put a bunch of people's lives at risk
on the plane
by using the plane as well. So that doesn't make sense for motivation.
Understood. It doesn't.
Okay. But so there is no, so the solution here is that I am not wrong in thinking that those things don't make sense.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I also had a challenge with those two. It bugged, and for me, it bugged me because it seemed like they were basically saying, if I say to do something, you should do what I say. But if I don't say to do something, then you're free to do whatever you want.
And not only are you free to do whatever you want, I will reward you for it.
I mean, that can't be the only fucking thing you're having trouble reaching. You don't have a fucking problem with no one being interested or Peter Parker never explicitly making it clear, oh yeah, they're using alien technology from when the fucking I don't know, quasars or who the fuck ever came through the hole.
Chitauri.
Yeah.
So,
By the way, being as smart as I am, I'm going to handle it without knowing what it is. Might get cancer. It might be radioactive. I'm not going to be concerned about that. I'm going to keep it in my fucking pocket.
That
seemed
level
like a
of a
teenager
plot hole.
thing.
That level
I'm
of
going
a
to bring
plot
it
hole
to
is not.
school with 8 other people in the room and just dissect it, even though it's glowing.
Hey,
That
you know
level
what?
of a
Let's
plot
take it
hole
to a
though
national monument.
doesn't have relevance, and that like
I know. I'm just saying, like,
what it feels
we're
like to me
talking
is that there is a lesson to be learned in this, and that by the end of Spider-Man: Homecoming, Tony treats him as if he properly learned a lesson.
Oh no, I'm not disagreeing with you.
Like
there.
the whole movie
That's
is
not
like
my
it's
intent
about
here.
him becoming his own, and then by the end of the movie, we are under the belief that Spider-Man is now coming to his own, and he deserves this suit. And Tony is congratulating him, and he achieved what his goal was. But I'm not sure what he did to achieve that goal,
That is
and how what he did was different than what he did incorrectly
that
previously.
is 100% my problem with the movie.
Okay, so it's not that I'm missing it. It's that even if there
Said
was
it's not
something
there.
even if there was something that it's hard to read or it can be
Agreed.
interpreted many different ways.
Agreed.
So the inability to interpret it maybe is the issue.
Now, all that being said, I enjoyed
No, this movie's great.
seeing him
movie's okay.
hanging off of a plane. That was good fun, and that could have been like a garbage CGI thing, but it wasn't. It was fun. It was neat. I enjoyed the wreck.
Sorry. Real quick before we move on, Idify, did you have anything else that you wanted to add to that conversation? That we just had?
I mean, frankly, it's day and night. Like, you know, we don't know what time this is going on when he's saving the ship, and the ship landed on a beach. So, I mean, there's not going to be that much casualty. But I do agree with your statement in general. It's the lack
But I don't
of
think he had any
the
control of where the
interpretation.
ship landed. though.
So you believe that it has to do with
but like I said,
putting
it's
people in
the
danger
lack
as
of
well?
Interpretation is what makes the problem, and I completely 100% agree with that.
Do you believe that what Tony Stark is congratulating him for is that he was mad at him because he put people in harm's way, and that at the end of the movie he accomplished his goal without putting people in harm's way? So Tony is happy with him. Is that what you believe it is?
Yeah, and no, I don't believe that that's the moral of it.
I know, but what do you believe? What do you believe? Why do you think that Tony is happy with him at the end and mad at him in the middle?
See, and that's the hard part of the movie that I'm
Feel free to just
100%
say I
with
don't
you guys.
know, because we don't
I
know.
don't
either.
know exactly, because it doesn't convey that message very well. If I had to interpret it, I would assume that, you know, throughout him going after Vulture and risking his life with, you know, putting his identity on the line, maybe that lets Stark know that he is a solidified hero, but the movie doesn't convey that in any shape or form.
Gotcha.
And I think that we would, each of us would fill in our own, because they were so vague. Like
I think room for interpretation is always a good
I've
thing.
sort of filled
I just
in
think
my
with
own
something
sort of story. I put my own spin on that,
Yeah.
and I think that anybody watching it could easily do that. That's sort of my flaw.
I think something as important as like I said, the character becoming Spider-Man and earning his quote-unquote wings. He did something to earn his wings at the end of that movie, and I don't know what he did.
Yeah.
I don't know what he did to earn the mantle, earn the title, earn the respect of Tony Stark. That's a little weird.
I found the middle half up until the very last moment far better than the beginning of this film, and that's usually the opposite.
Yeah.
I can't tell you a single part at the very beginning that I didn't find fucking kind of boring, that felt like a montage. Like when he learns he's Spider-Man. The rest of the movie's like when Ned learns he's Spider-Man. A good portion of it next is spent montaging him going to class, him doing this, him doing that, him doing
A John
this.
Hughes movie.
Yeah,
Yes,
it really was.
and I
fun.
found
loved
it
all that stuff.
obnoxious.
All right, but there was one montage that I loved more than anything, and that was the montage where he learns to use his suit, or at least locked inside the
Dude,
vault.
the scene where he's in the vault is so great.
It was
where he's
brilliant.
like sitting there talking to her and practicing all these different things, and he's like, "How long's it been?" And she's like, 37 minutes.
That was so
great.
awesome. It was like the opposite of a montage. It was like a montage to make you think it was really long, but it was just really short. That part was brilliant. And I do love, if we're talking about stuff we loved, I love the fact that Spider-Man, Peter Parker, is a scientist. He's smart, and he uses his brains to do his own webbing and to work out the code to get out of that door, and to all of those things are super satisfying to me. That was something that Tobey Maguire was missing.
Yeah, he just had the web in his.
Yeah, it was genetically, and the spider manipulated his genes to make webs. And I like him as being a super smart person, because I think that creates its own weaknesses, and it's very interesting.
Anything that anybody else wants to talk about before we put a score on it?
I had a lot of fun with it.
I don't have a lot to say about this movie. I don't dislike this movie. And I don't think it's a mediocre movie. But the way that I feel towards it, outside of Michael Keaton in any scene that included him, it's the same feeling that I have when I watch a mediocre movie. Like, I have trouble even remembering the parts in between the parts that I liked. There's I don't know. So no, I don't have a whole lot to say about this movie.
Okay. Idify?
The one thing that I really liked, which you guys did touch on, I do like that we're seeing the aftermath of the Chitauri battle with alien tech being involved in society now and how everybody's dealing with it. I do love that aspect of this movie a lot.
I'll say this. Since this one was such smaller stakes, a much smaller, tighter, maybe not tighter, a smaller movie, that felt like a TV show, I'm really, really excited to see what a sequel to this movie is.
Me too.
I'm really excited to see where they go with this character and what else they can do with him. Because by the end of the trilogy, he'll be out of high school, and I don't know. I love the idea of getting into bigger and crazier and things that no, Spider-Man has to be the one that stops this. It is not just something that Spider-Man can do. It's something that Spider-Man is the only one who can do.
I'm going to make a really nuts prediction.
Ooh, please.
All right. And now in
the next one is coming out next year, by the way.
Next year, if this happens, just remember this. The post-credit scene of Spider-Man Homecoming 2, because that's what it'll be called, I'm sure.
It'll be Spider-Man Prom.
Will be some bit leading up to, what's your name? Harry Osborn. Bum, bum, bum.
I think I agree with you.
I think Harry Osborn should definitely be in it, but he should be in the movie, not in a post-credit scene.
So no, it's going to be Peter meeting him.
So if we're talking about stuff that's coming, I think that they've made several hints at the Sinister Six.
Yep.
And exactly. I really, really think that will be fun. I think that one of the things that Spider-Man has that other characters in the Marvel Universe don't have is a gallery of rogues.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, like Batman, has more bad
Holy
guys.
shit, man. I was literally just going to say a minute ago, this might be a hot take, but I think Spider-Man's villains are fucking weak.
Really?
Yes.
Oh man, because he's got so many of them. So I would
love Paul Giamatti's Rhino back. I would say that.
I want that.
Are you serious about that? Okay.
I do.
As much as I love Paul Giamatti, no.
I
keep
like
him.
What do you said there are seeds. What are these seeds? I'm curious.
So
Scorpion,
and
Vulture,
Vulture, Shocker. These are all members of the Sinister Six, which has sort of a rotating set of people in it.
Yep.
And so one of the questions that we might ask is, who's going to be in the Sinister Six? And so we can already put 3 people in it, which is a pretty considerable amount. So remaining, we have another group. And I just want to go out and say, I want Mysterio, which
I think Mysterio would be really cool.
This is my thing.
He looks silly.
He's got a fishbowl on his head. He's awesome. Anyways.
If we get another, which we are obviously, I want the movie to be fucking Kraven the Hunter.
There you go.
That's what the rumor is. The rumor that I've read online is that they're going to go with Kraven.
I want Carnage. I don't want Cletus Cassidy.
I think Carnage would be cool. Psychopath. I do not want Venom, especially since we have that.
Yeah, no, you can keep Venom.
But
I want Carnage.
We got a Venom movie.
That Tom Hardy movie coming.
Yeah.
In fact, I want Maximum Carnage.
And I want the whole movie to be a red cartridge.
Yes.
Just the movie itself. The entire, it just has a red.
What do you think I meant? When I said Maximum Carnage, I meant the Super Nintendo game.
Cool.
And that's what I want. The poster for the movie needs to be Carnage overlooking the city.
This is 3 we're talking about, right? Or 2?
Yes, 3.
All right,
2,
we're done speculating.
Kraven.
Apologies for going off the rails
Harry.
a minute there. Let's score this fucking movie.
6.8.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Really.
AP 6.8.
Wait, hold on. You said really? What are you shocked about?
It seems a little low given how you were reviewing it.
I don't remember reviewing it super positively.
No, that's cool.
About 5 points of that is all Michael Keaton.
It's a 1.8.
He's pretty much like the only thing I like about this movie, minus Ned. Like Ned's a good character, but he can't carry the movie on his fucking own. So yeah,
6.8. What do you think?
I want to give this a 8.1.
8.1. Idify?
10.
Are you shitting me?
I had too much fun with this movie. With him revealing his identity, to multiple people, which is fucking astounding to me. With the appearances of the character, villain was solid. The build up, the possible Sinister Six, 10. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan though, so I'm very biased.
Oh, so it takes something like Spider-Man to get a 10 out of you, is that right?
I haven't given a 10 in the last
Iron
5
Man
movies.
Or last 5. So
You know what? You're absolutely right. You haven't given one in the last 5 movies.
That is accurate. I am going to score this a 9.0. It is an A movie. It is barely an A movie, but it's a solid A. It was super fun. I enjoyed it in the movies, and I enjoyed it at home. I would recommend it to anybody.
Oh, one other thing Sorry, go on.
I can't get over the fact that we don't really understand how he earned his way into becoming someone that Robert Downey Jr. respects. It's like, what's the story of this movie? What is the lesson to be learned? None of us know. None of us know what the actual story is of this movie. That's wild.
Okay, you know what? I'm just curious. If you had to make up what it was that turned Stark around, what would you think it is? I'm just curious what everybody would
trying to do that. We can't come up with
that. No, but like,
I legitimately have
the
no
movie
idea.
didn't do it,
So,
but what would you imagine is what it was?
I believe that it was because he didn't do what Tony Stark told him to do. And
that was the test.
And when Tony Stark said, "Don't do this thing, don't follow Vulture," he did it, and that's the entire sum of what he did wrong. And then later in the movie, he helped Tony Stark without violating his commands. So
I think it's because he saved his weapons. It's because Tony did not have a personal investment in anything else that Peter was doing, but then when Peter saved all of his stuff, then he was like, you know what, you're pretty good in my book. But that makes Tony a shitty character.
I think that Tony did it because Peter Parker landed the aircraft in the Coney Island beach, and he understood that, like, out of all the places in New York, he was like, he tried to take out Coney Island, so they can't do a Warriors remake. And I don't want one. And you know what? You didn't quite make it, although they can't film on the beach anymore for that final scene. You should have taken out the Ferris wheel, but you know what, kid? I'll meet you halfway. Come join the Avengers. That's what I think.
come out and play.
Yeah, exactly.
DKP, you have changed my opinion, and I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This review and podcast was brought to you by the following sponsors.
Hold on, there was one thing I wanted to bring up before we go on.
Yeah.
This was the most diverse Marvel movie we've ever gotten, which I think is good, and it worked really well.
Was it?
I wanted to point that out specifically, just as a brief mention. When Black Panther came out, there were a shitload of articles I read calling it the most diverse Marvel movie ever.
Oh, no,
and saying,
it wasn't very diverse.
Yeah, and that was the weird thing, but this one, without question, is like all of the main series
when
cast.
DKP started talking to me about this the other night, sorry to interrupt you. I was like, people didn't say that Black Panther was the most diverse movie ever, and then he Googled it in front of me, and holy shit!
Yeah, everybody did. But here's my problem. It's not even a problem.
I mean, to me, it's appropriate because it's a high school.
Here's
in
why
Queens.
I didn't notice it. It's because it took place in New York.
Yeah,
and that's what a random sampling of people in New York look like.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like, it felt very appropriate. Like, there are certain movies that feel like, okay, they want to have representation everywhere, so they have to write it in. This one, it felt supernatural, and it was great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to point that out. But nobody praised this one for it. God damn it. So that's DKP's official praise. If no one else did it, you heard it here first.
I hadn't noticed, but I think you're correct.
Well, there you go. That's it. That's my final bit of a review.
This episode got a little political.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I really wanted to ask about the Bernie comparison, but no, let's just go on.
Let's not. Let's not.
I'm gonna have you pull up 2 pictures and show me after this, though.
Yeah, I will.
Let's not.
Oh my God!
All right. Our sponsors this week. Thank you to our sponsors, Bernie Sanders. I'm just kidding. Number one is Audi cars, car manufacturers. Also Ford. We got 2 car manufacturers to sponsor our show. You know, I thought there was going to be some sort of conflict of interest with the fact that it was 2, but both of them were on board. Thank you for paying our bills. Number 3 is Dell Computers. Number 4 is JanSport, specifically their backpack line.
What a horrendous name, JanSport. I've always hated that fucking shit.
And then
it wasn't an amusing gimmick.
Those are our sponsors. I love JanSport personally, boys.
It was a real amusing gimmick that he kept losing his backpack, though. Yeah. I thought that was cool.
It's people, man, they love JanSport. They're trying to steal them all. Love you, JanSport. Thanks for sponsoring our show. And then finally, surprising to no one, Sony sponsored this movie as well. All right.
Wait.
They sponsored this podcast and this movie.
Where was Sony at?
Everywhere.
It was like every other scene.
Yeah.
I was a little bit drunk when I was watching this.
There was lots of Sony in it.
Well, but I feel like the last time we reviewed something, you said that you don't drink that often.
No. I think you misunderstood me when I go to the theater.
No, I'm just digging.
That's
I
what
know
I
exactly what you meant. I'm just jabbing at
I watch
you.
movies drunk at home all the time.
That's the only way you watch them.
It's the only way to watch movies.
It's time to move on to Secrets of the Marvel Universe.
Universe.
Number 1, the United States Department. Oh, there are a shit ton of these, by the way. Number 1, the United States Department of Damage Control. There's an MCU TV series in the works called Damage Control that'll be a comedy and be about the cleanup crew for post Avengers destruction. Also, this group does exist in comic book form. Number 2, in the beginning, when Peter is making a documentary on his phone about the events of Civil War, we see a shot of a giant metal globe in Queens. We've seen this before, specifically in Iron Man 2. Also,
Stark Convention.
It was the Stark Convention.
Oh,
also
that's
shout
right.
out to Peter being in Iron Man 2.
We also saw it in Captain America then.
Yep, we did.
Neat.
Number 3. I'm going to go over a list of Peter's schoolmates and who they become. Ned Leeds becomes the Hobgoblin in the comic. So Ned, his friend.
Yeah, but all right. So
I can't see that happening in this arc.
So they kind of compressed Ned. It's a little bit of, so there's like multiple universes that Spider-Man's happen in, and this Ned is sort of he's a composite character built out of a bunch of different characters.
He's Fat Oracle.
That's how the MCU's done things for a long time.
And I'm cool with that, but it means that all I'm saying is we don't know that he's going to follow the same path
for
as
sure.
Previous Neds.
Yeah. Liz Allen. She was Peter's love interest in the very first appearance of Spider-Man, which was Amazing Fantasy number 15.
She also was his love interest in college in the 80s when I was reading a lot of Spider-Man.
Spider-Man gets around, that's for sure.
Yep. Flash Thompson.
Yeah.
Who does he become?
We all know about Flash Thompson. He's been there. He's always been a Peter Parker antagonist.
Doesn't he become Carnage or something?
He
Maybe
becomes a Venom.
Yeah, it's one of the Venoms.
Betty Brant. She's the reporter on the school news channel. In the comics.
Oh my God, she was?
Yeah, in the comics, she worked for the Daily Bugle. Also, she dated Ned Leeds before he became Hobgoblin.
Yep.
Betty Brant in the Spider-Man movies is played by, why can't I think of her name?
She was familiar to me.
Never mind. I'm just gonna.
Which one was Betty?
To the blonde.
She's so you know how they have the TV news show that is super hilarious.
She was the one who already had a date.
Yep. Michelle is MJ. Cindy in the comics was also bit by the same spider that bit Peter, and she becomes a superhero.
I thought you were reading this list and being like, these are the people that become villains. That's why I was like, who does Flash become? And you're like, Michelle is MJ. And that's why I had to look at the paper.
These are just different people that, like, his schoolmates.
Okay,
they wrote these characters into the movie.
Right.
In the comics, these characters are X. Cindy in the comics, she is the one of Liz's friends. She gets bit by the same spider that bit Peter, and she becomes a superhero named Silk. And then Abe the African kid that I referred to earlier, he becomes Black Tiger.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Is he Wakandan?
No.
Because me and Tommy
Black
had a
Panther?
joke.
Black
I was
Tiger.
like, what if that? You were like, what if he's a Wakandan spy?
No.
Yeah, because we were talking about because he's clearly got an African accent.
Yeah. So he's from Africa, and you're like, what if he's a Wakandan spy? And I was like, ooh. And then you said he becomes Black Tiger.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute.
Maybe he could be Wakandan.
Maybe so.
An interesting take.
Number 4, and so this is outside of all the schoolmate stuff. In Peter's school is a mural that includes several important people from history, including Albert Einstein, Howard Stark, and Dr. Abraham Erskine, who created the super soldier serum, played by Stanley Tucci in Captain America: The First Avenger.
The one who drinks.
Yep. Number 5, it may be a stretch, but Peter's locker number is 1184. The November 84 issue of Spider-Man was the introduction of Venom and the symbiote story. The issue before that one was called Homecoming because it was about Peter returning to Earth with an alien fabric suit.
I don't think that's a stretch. Well,
maybe. I don't know.
No, never mind. Now that I think about it, that's probably not correct.
I think Homecoming is a reference. So here's my feeling. I think that they're going to do 4 movies, and each of them, because he's a freshman, right? Or is he a sophomore?
He's a sophomore.
Okay,
He
so
said it
those
specifically.
3 movies, or maybe 4 with one in college. Or
See,
I feel like we're going to get.
The problem
one
is
for
they're not
every-
going to film them all that quick.
Oh, it's true.
back
And
to
all
back
those
to back
people
to
are
back.
aging real
Yeah.
quick.
Kids age.
Well, I mean, look at Game of Thrones. They can get away with it.
I mean, does Game of Thrones get away with it, or do people constantly give them shit?
So you're right. The next one will be prom, and then he's going to go to college, and
I think we'll get one more in high school, and then I think we'll get one when he's older.
Yeah, I think I think the final will be him in college. But yeah, I don't anticipate them calling it Spider-Man Prom though.
No,
I'd be
definitely
fine
not.
with that, I guess. But
The people have speculated about the Homecoming name.
I think it's just gonna be Homecoming too.
But Homecoming
Homecoming, Too
Homecoming has
Furious.
multiple different things where it's like he's coming home from fighting in the Civil War movie.
right.
He has a homecoming dance. The movie is a homecoming of Spider-Man
Into the
to the
MCU.
Marvel Cinematic
Yeah.
Universe. So there's like a bunch of different meanings for it. It was a word that was used in Civil War that was said to Bucky Barnes. You guys remember that? Number 6, Midtown High, established in 1962. All of the guys, when they're going to the decathlon, they have their jackets that have those emblems on them. Midtown High, established in 1962. Anybody know what 1962 was?
The year Spider-Man came out?
Correct. The year he made his debut. Number 7, Michelle, also known as MJ, and her book. There's a scene where they're in the gym, gym class, and she's just reading a book. I got this from Screen Rant. It says, we're referring to the scene in gym class where Michelle is far more interested in the book she's reading, called Somerset Maugham, or the writer Somerset Maugham's 1915 novel on human bondage. The novel tells the semi-autobiographical tale of Philip Carey, an orphan boy sent to live with his aunt and uncle, and soon takes an interest in books and higher education. If you draw out the parallel, the story concludes with Philip having his great ambitions laid out in front of him, but finds himself drawn to a lover, marriage, and children instead. One interpretation is that Philip spent his life searching for happiness, but found it right in front of him. Since that's where Peter's own story goes by the movie's final scene, it's a nice touch for those who catch it.
It's a very depressing book, though. It's kind of weird. Anyways.
Number 8, when Peter's in chemistry, there's a row of pictures of famous chemists. Bruce Banner is one of those chemists.
Yay.
Number 9, Aunt May and Peter go out for Thai food. The next building to it has a sign that reads Korean Church of Asgard. That's pretty awesome.
that's brilliant. I didn't notice
That's
that.
awesome.
Number 10, when Peter...
That is something really quick. I've always thought about, like, this is a universe where the two things that you think would disrupt humanity as we know it are disproving of all religion
And aliens.
and aliens, and
Both of them have
happened, and everything's fucking fine. And I was like, of course people would start worshiping fucking the gods since they're coming here. Like,
the Korean Church of Asgard.
That's brilliant that they put that in.
Number 10, when Peter is resting on a brick wall during the film, graffiti with the word Bagley is tagged out behind him. Mark Bagley is the artist for the Ultimate Spider-Man series, and he was an inspiration for a lot of the art for this movie. Number 11, the scene where Peter stops the Avengers from robbing an ATM is from Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 42. All that plays out, like people wearing Avengers masks.
I thought that was fun.
Yeah. Number 12, Aaron Davis says, I got a nephew who lives around here.
Mm-hmm.
In the comics, Aaron Davis is the uncle of Miles Morales, also known as the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yay.
Also, Aaron
Miles
Davis
Morales is an awesome character. So
He really is.
I'm excited for that new Spider-Man movie that comes out this year, the animated
Same.
one. Also, Aaron Davis is a Marvel villain in the comics, known as the Prowler.
Eventually, he kind of works his way into it.
Yeah. Sorry, no, got to go to another page, and they're all stuck together.
Because there are a lot of secrets.
There are so many secrets. Also, in association with Aaron Davis, he has his license plate is UCS M01. Ultimate Comics Spider-Man 01. First issue. So, again, it might be a stretch, but it makes sense.
Major Tom, let me know if you've heard this or not. I had a feeling that Childish Gambino was actually pitching Sony Ultimate Spider-Man movie, and I think that's one of the reasons. Go ahead.
There was a so he voices Miles Morales in one of the cartoons.
Yeah. He's definitely a Miles Morales fan.
Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me.
He wanted to play him back in 2011 when they were working on a Spider-Man movie. He wanted to play Miles Morales, but it never got picked up.
Whatever it is.
Right, that's it.
More recently with him is he was working on a Deadpool. He was working on a Deadpool TV
Spider-Man
series.
hates Mondays.
He was working on a Deadpool TV series, and that did not happen.
Yeah, and like he was in that whole Solo, the Han Solo thing. I mean, it seems like a lot of stuff he's doing keeps getting canceled or changed.
If I had to say anything about Solo, he does look like an amazing Lando Calrissian.
Oh yeah, totally.
I disagree.
Why does everyone look
Number
That's fine.
Because I'm going to see if you're going to react to it.
No one looks like who they're supposed to in that fucking cast. So if you want to recast him as Donald Glover, I like Donald Glover. I'm fine with that.
You know who's going to look perfect is Chewbacca.
Chewbacca will be
sure.
My guess is he probably won't even look perfect in that.
You know what they say?
Either.
Fur don't crack. You know what I'm saying?
Number 13. There's another license plate featured heavily during the ferry scene. It has SM2-0563. Spider-Man issue 2, released in May 1963, was the first appearance of Vulture and the Tinkerer.
Yep.
Number 14. The Shocker's weapon was referenced as tech salvaged from Lagos. DKP is currently looking up things on the internet.
Stop. My shit's about to get shut off, I think. I should have checked. Because I think it might have just happened. Or it's about to. Just go on. Move on.
Okay. The Shocker's weapon was referenced as tech salvaged from Lagos. Lagos was the battle in Civil War. The battle in Civil War that took place at the beginning of that movie.
Yeah.
And the tech that they salvaged was the weapons that Crossbones used. So if you basically... The weapons that the Shocker uses in this movie, that big punching thing, is the same exact stuff that Crossbones used.
That's awesome, actually.
Yeah, never made that connection.
They were very similar.
Yeah, they do the same thing.
Yep.
It's just something that punches real fast and hard. Number 15, when Peter saves his friend at the Washington Monument, Liz specifically, he's hanging upside down, and he's looking at her, and Karen says, "Kiss her, Peter." Did anybody know what that's a reference to?
It's the Tobey Maguire kiss scene.
Yes.
See, I thought when Ned and Peter were in his room and Peter was upside down, Ned was on the ground, I thought that was also a reference to it.
Your contributions to this podcast are very appreciated.
You're welcome.
Number 16. When Happy is on the phone walking through the items on the plane, he mentions... I can't even say it. Mijing Joro, the name given to Thor's magic belt. In both versions of Thor's mythology, the belt is a gift from Odin, imbued with the power to double the strength of the god of thunder in times of great peril. Number 17, Principal Morita, or Morita. Kenneth Choi plays Principal Morita, but he's also played someone else in the MCU. He played a character named Jim Morita. A member of the Howling Commandos. Nope. A member of the Howling Commandos in
Swing and a miss.
A member of the Howling Commandos in the first Avenger.
Are they related?
There is even a picture of him in the principal's office.
They are related.
They are related. So the same actor, he plays the grandfather and the grandson. Number 18, the scene where Vulture drops the roof onto Spidey is from an iconic scene from Amazing Spider-Man number 33. And then the last one, the Iron Spider suit that we see at the end of the movie.
Is something that comes up in other shows or other comics. And
19 of them. I think that's the most secrets we've had so far. Time to move on to DKP's favorite segment, our friend Stanley. Does anybody remember Stanley's cameo in this?
I do.
Tell me about it.
It was him when Peter Parker was... I'm not going to touch that. He was stopping, let's just say, a regular character from getting into his car. And he happened to have gotten the wrong guy. It was that guy's car. And Stanley was out...
Even though he was using a Slim Jim, I think it was a justified mistake.
Yeah, nah. I'm with Spider-Man on this one. Hashtag I'm with him. But Stanley was like, listen, you damn punks, get out of here. And then this old woman, almost like the Mrs. Goldfarb lady from Requiem for a Dream, nice callback to that, was like, hey, is that you, Stanley? Or something. He's like, Marjorie, how's your nephew? Or some shit. And that was about it. He played the Brooklyn, I'm going to yell out the window because there's noise downstairs guy.
Yep.
I thought it was a pretty good representation. It felt like very natural. Like I could imagine Stan Lee growing up as a kid yelling out the windows.
Getting yelled at.
Yelled at. So
to me, it's one of the least interesting ones. The Stan Lee cameos, to me, I like when they have some sort of like
secret meaning
or comedic element to them, even if it's like he's doing something funny.
I think this was supposed to be funny. It just wasn't very funny.
Well, can you change my score real quick? I'm just kidding. It's time for the post credits. Get out your fucking checkbook moment.
Get out your fucking checkbook.
Something new?
Yeah. We had a mid credits and a post credit scene. The mid credit scene is Mac Gargan. He finds Toombs in prison and questions him about Spidey's identity. If you couldn't tell by the tattoo on his neck, Mac Gargan eventually becomes the Scorpion.
And it wasn't really clear, but I watched carefully this time. He lost his arm. He has two hands in the ferry scene, and in that last scene, he's got just one hand. So we are totally being set up for him becoming Scorpion.
Yep.
All you got to have is some illegal prison, a mad scientist experiments, and boom.
You talked about this with... one of the reasons that you like Toombs is because of how he like kind of doesn't go all in on killing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I thought this was a great scene of showing like, nah. And it didn't seem like he wanted to keep him to himself or take care of him himself.
That wasn't my sense either.
There was like a respect that he has for Spider-Man that I really appreciated. And then the post-credits scene is Cap giving a speech, and I have the entire speech here and I wanted to read it. Wanted to read it out for you guys. He says, "Hi, I'm Captain America, here to talk to you about one of the most valuable traits a soldier or student can have. Patience. Sometimes patience is the key to victory. Sometimes it leads to very little. It seems like it's not worth it. And you wonder why you waited so long for something so disappointed. How many more of these?" He like looks off to the side and goes, "How many more of these?" That's it.
That last one was one of my favorites because
it's a great post-credit scene.
Like they're getting a little tired of him.
Yeah.
And we are getting a little tired of him, and it was just like a joke that we could share with people.
Dude, I say this. Sorry, go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah.
At the end of this movie, if, let's say, Civil War were right after this, do you think Spider-Man would have switched sides?
Civil War, like...
I think it just depends on who approached him first.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because what you're asking completely changes this entire movie.
Because this starts with Civil War.
Right. But I'm just saying,
even
let's say they had to do Civil War 2. Do you think he still would have sided with Iron Man, or he would have gone to Cap's side?
I think
he would side with... I don't know, because I feel like he would side with Iron Man because he already has a relationship with Iron Man, and he does not have a relationship with Cap. And since he's a kid, he's going to go with the political party that his parents have, if you know what I'm saying.
All right, so here's what I think. I think that if this movie were better, we would know the answer to this question. And the fact that we don't know the answer to this question is the failing in this movie for me. I get to the end and I just don't know.
I don't know.
What do you think, DKP?
Fuck, I don't know. I'm with Tommy. I think that he relates to Iron Man a lot more than Captain America. They're both scientists. They share that interest. He already has a relationship. Not to mention, as far his understanding of Captain America is the lame fucking guy on the TV in gym class. So I think in almost all circumstance, because like I said, and also not to dredge up old shit, like his identity's outed by Tony Stark. He knows that. As long as the people he doesn't want to know don't know, he's fine with it.
Speaking of, I like at the very end of this movie where she sees him put his outfit on or take it off, and she goes, "What the fuck?" Like the movie is right before she says "fuck."
See, that's where I think the movie fucked up. It's PG-13, this movie, right? You know, you're afforded one fuck per PG-13.
You think
I think they should have used it.
I think Disney/Marvel
pussies.
I mean, sure, it's still Disney though.
Yeah, I think every small kid
use
that
the word
goes
penis
to see a Spider-Man movie should
repeatedly
hear the word fuck.
Wait, in our Guardians of the Galaxy 2 review, you cheered that Guardians of the Galaxy used the word penis. Do you feel the same about them using the word penis in this?
I thought it was played out already.
Gotcha. Anybody have anything else they want to say before we close this out?
No, but for on the real though, Penis Parker is funny though. Like that's a sick ass burn.
I do have one thing, and I hope Marvel continues with this trend of making superhero movies into different types of genres. Those are probably the Marvel movies that I really enjoy the most.
I agree.
I agree too. Although I really wanted the horror story New Mutants, and I think that they're just messing it up over and over and over again. So it just breaks my heart. So
we're getting like an X-Men universe horror movie. I forget what it's called.
It's New Mutants, and they literally pushed it back. So they pushed it back 3 times now. So it's literally 3 years since when they first started filming it, which is never ever a good sign.
So not to go off another tangent, if Marvel did do one with the properties they have now, it would have to be Blade or Ghost Rider, right?
They've already done Ghost Rider in the MCU.
I'd be okay with the Blade remake.
Well, I mean, Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze, not that other guy.
Okay.
I'm sorry, if you're gonna do Ghost Rider, you got to get
Nicolas Cage.
So,
why don't we just bring Keanu Reeves while we're at it?
well, there you go.
Anything else?
That's it for me, boys.
All right. Well, that's it for this week's Preparation Avengers. Join us next week where we will be reviewing Thor Ragnarok. That is the last movie that we will be reviewing. However, that will not be the last show. We're going to have 2 more after the Thor Ragnarok one. One will be a
special Super Bonanza show.
Yeah, where we're going to speculate on what we think is going to happen. We're going to play some fun games. We're going to rank all the villains. We're going to talk about the TV shows. We're going to go all in on Marvel Cinematic Universe in a way we haven't done with any of the previous episodes. And then there will be one more episode where we will be reviewing Infinity War.
Tune in to find out how iDefy ranks all the movies he gave it to.
We're definitely, iDefy will be ranking his 10s. He will have to put them all in a specific order, so you guys
I fucking love that
please
idea.
Be excited for that. So yeah, don't forget to give the video a like on YouTube. Also subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button so you see when we go live. We also play video games on Twitch sometimes, so follow us on that. And follow us on Twitter for reasons. Our panel one last time. DKP?
Penis Parker.
Pebiv?
How do I follow up with Penis Parker? That's brilliant. It's Pebiv here.
iDefy?
Hey now.
And I'm Major Tom. And don't forget, Baskin Robbins always finds out.